The Sentinel is known to be reliable, fearless, disciplined, consistent, courageous, motivated, and skillful.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
All these qualities start from the mind. Your mind can be your worst enemy or your most powerful weapon.
The world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
Is this the dagger?
Learn how to achieve greatness and tap into the Sentinel mindset.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this amazing day. I am really excited because we have a police force right here. Actually, I can't even say force anymore because that term got dropped years ago. We got an amazing police service here. We have Halton Region in the house. And who is here from Halton? First of all, we have Sergeant Chantal Verrier, we have Constable Bianca Ferrante, and we have Cadet Simra Samra. How are you guys doing?
Very good. Thank you for inviting us today.
Amazing. I'm excited because anytime that there's an opportunity for someone else to unlock an opportunity through information, it just excites me because I think a lot of people that listen to the show, for them, they have a deep desire to get into policing. But we also, as we've said in conversation, a lot of people sometimes don't know that they are protectors, and maybe they may look at it as Mike referenced in the past. Maybe I'd love to get in there, but I don't think I may have the right size, or maybe I don't have, an incredible, firearms range skill set, or maybe I don't have this or that. So they almost discredit themselves a little bit. So what we want to do today is unlock, and hearing from everyone here. So, more or less what you guys can tell the audience of, what you need to do to have your mindset ready for policing. What are some of the competencies that you require through Halton, and also more or less the journey. I love journey stories because when someone listens to your story, especially since we have, now I know you referenced me as Sim.
Yeah.
So can I call you Sim?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. I want to make that. So we have Sim here who is a cadet, and we also have Bianca who just basically, how long have you been on, would you say right now?
So I've been on the road for 3 months now.
For 3 months. Yeah. So when somebody hears your journeys right now, I assure you, because we hear it all the time, they will be inspired by that journey. And if you guys did it, I can too as well. And that's kind of what we want to pull from this. So first of all, let's just direct all our attention to Sergeant Chantal Verrier. So tell us from your end, I mean, being with Halton for 24 years right now.
Yep, just coming up. Yep.
Just coming up. What has the journey been like for you?
I've had a wonderful career.
Okay.
It is what you make of it, right? A policing career isn't just one career, right? You could have 10, 15, 20 mini careers, right? Depending on, what avenues you take. So I've done some investigations. I was a diversity officer. I was a media officer. And then now in recruiting, and worked some other different units that have really built up my skill set and my love of policing, right? Because the more you do, the more well-rounded you are, and the more happy you are, right? Because you're extremely productive and you can really give back to that community. So being in recruiting at this stage in my career is so positive, and being able to be involved with, choosing our new leaders, right? For the next 20, 30 years. It's pretty cool. It's a nice feeling when you go home at night.
Well, I've only met you for 20 minutes right now, and we've had some email correspondence. And what I can say is that you can see the love of policing is on you. Like it's there's a glow almost to it. So that's amazing, because to me, it's like your passion oozes out, and to actually see something kind of even get better and bring more people into this in recruitment. What are the things that you like when, we always talk about in the company about having the X, somebody have to have an X factor when they come in, right? Because what are you doing to stand up from the rest? What are some things that, you kind of look for through the organization that makes someone stand apart from the rest in such a competitive market?
Well, I think number one, the most important thing for us is making sure that the applicants that come through us, we want a good fit for Halton. And I mean, we have all these competencies that we look for. But in addition to those competencies, you really have to be personable, right? And you have to be community oriented. We want to see you, really interested in volunteering, helping your community, helping people, because that's your bread and butter on the road, right? We want to know that you're going to be out there doing the right thing all the time and eager to do that.
Right.
So in addition to, resiliency, which is very important, but communication, problem solving, inclusivity, things like that are really important. And that's what we look for when we're speaking with our applicants, right? Whether it's in interviews or, just having kind of offsite conversations, we can really get to know you. And that's how we're going to know that you're a good fit.
Okay, that's great. Now, from an experience perspective, experience or life experience does play a factor, of course, being able to articulate that to try to get on. Now, I always want to dispel the myth, and maybe I'm the one that's off, but maybe you can help with this. You don't necessarily need to have experience in security to enter the career of policing. You can draw from other areas of experience or other fields. Do you want to maybe share some light on that?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we have applicants that come from a wide array of backgrounds, whether it's education, right, high school or college or university, with employment. I mean, that loss prevention and security, obviously bringing the relevance to the table. It makes you a little more competitive because you have life experience to draw from, right? In order to articulate that, hey, you know what? This is what I did, and I'm good at it.
Okay.
Right? But that's not to say that working in hospitality, right, wouldn't bring some really strong skill sets to the table as well, right? Because you're dealing with different kind of people, right? You could be dealing with irate people. And if you can really articulate that and show us that, hey, you know what? I do have these skills because this is what I've done. That's what we're looking for. Okay.
I love that. And I'm going to make sure you guys just get into the conversation as well. So what I want to do is this. One thing that we've never really talked about on the show is the cadet program, which I think is very, very important that we shed some light on that. So feel free, by the way, everyone can jump in. Like we're having a nice round. We're at a dining room table right now just having a conversation. So Sim, you basically entered the cadet program when? How long have you been in there right now?
So I've currently been on the cadet program for about 5 months now.
5 months.
And my entire 5 months I've pretty much been on the road with my coach officer.
Okay. And what's the experience been like so far?
It's amazing. I mean, I'm out on the road every single day. I'm going call to call and responding to calls for service. So it's amazing. You pretty much get a first-hand experience of what it is to be a police officer, and you get to participate in all the roles a police officer carries out every day.
Okay. No, that's good to know. So for yourself, when you entered the cadet program, for those listening, how does one enter the cadet program?
Well, the cadet program works very similarly to the recruit process. You apply and you go through very similar processes, such as going through a competency interview, you go through an aptitude test, fitness test, a psychological evaluation. So it's designed to be very similar to the recruit process. So it is you are pretty much hands-on going into like the regular process of what it is to be a police officer.
Okay, so it's definitely a pathway.
Absolutely.
So would it be safe to say that is there people that are in the cadet program that just want to do it and be a cadet, or are most people joining the cadet program to go further, deeper into policing?
Well, it is designed to help people go further into policing. I'm pretty sure every cadet wants to be a police officer and has said to themselves that police is a calling.
Okay.
So what the cadet program is, it's pretty much a 1 year long program where designed for 19 to 24-year-old individuals who want to be police officers but are just lacking that life experience. And what the cadet program does is it enhances those experience and that leadership skills that you need to be a constable, and it makes you a more competitive applicant to be a constable when you get to that process. Okay, great. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, Chantel. Is for someone looking to get into the cadet program, is it set up in the same infrastructure of getting into as a constable? Meaning, do they have to still go through Ontario Police College? Do they still have to be part of those three potential classes happening throughout the year, or is it set up on a different timeline? It's set up very differently, but as Sim mentioned, a lot of the steps of the process for application are the same, but we run it once a year. So we're in actually right now where we've accepted applications and now we're processing all the cadets who have applied. And then we put together the cohort, and then they start in May of next year. So we've scheduled it for May because then that's the end of the school year. So people that could be finishing their last year of school, because of the age range, right? We expect them to be enrolled in school, that then they can start in May.
Okay.
So we choose them, and then they still do the same kind of training that we offer the constables. But then they hit the road for 12 months.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
so
awesome.
It gives them really good exposure. And the stuff that they're getting involved in and seeing mirrors a constable's process.
Yes.
Right? Because it's one and the same, because you're going to the calls. Several police services do have a cadet program, not all. Ours is different because they are on patrol for 12 months.
Okay.
So it does make it very interesting for them.
Yes.
And the experience that they gather is priceless
Okay.
when it comes around. So at the end of 12 months, we put them through a cadet to constable process. So you'll have to undergo like an ECI interview, just
Yes.
as a constable would, right?
Yes.
And show us that you have these competencies now,
Okay,
right?
that's
and
amazing.
Pull from what you've seen and done over the year. And we do everything we can to help them be successful. I mean, they come back to us just amazing, right?
Yes.
And super jacked and excited,
Yeah.
right? Just to get on with becoming sworn. And then they go to OPC.
Okay.
And they become officers. The percentage of cadets who are successful, 95%.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
That's amazing.
Because you might have a couple that, you know what, and this is what the cadet program is for, is to say, hey, you know what, this isn't for me.
They go through a discovery process and find that out.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the majority of them, once you do get out there,
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, this
Man,
is what
I want to
wanna
apply for a
do.
cadet right now. You know what I mean? Just to get on, but I'm too old.
Yeah.
Okay, so is the cadet program new, or is it something that's been around for a long time?
This is something that's been around for a very long time. Actually, it goes back decades and decades. And then it disappeared for a little bit. And then Halton Regional Police brought it back in 2009. And then
Okay.
it's just been gaining momentum ever since.
I love it.
It's extremely positive. And the quality of officers that we get from the cadet program, from having, a group of cadets working frontline for 12 months, when they do go to OPC, they're well beyond what a constable or a new recruit would be when you're hired.
Okay.
Right?
No.
Because of that hands-on experience.
Yeah, that's great. And we're gonna unearth your experiences so far and what you've seen. But let's go to Bianca. So you've been on for 3 months now?
Mm-hmm.
And you are coming on as a 4th class constable?
Yes.
Okay, so far, for yourself, let's just start off like maybe a little bit of an origin story. Why did you choose policing?
I feel like I'm at my interview
I
again.
know.
Well, I think personally for me, I knew at a very young age, I wanted to do something that would help people. I didn't know specifically it would be policing. I actually was interested in nursing. And then, investigated a little more about the schooling behind nursing. I was like, yeah, that's a no for me.
Okay.
So when I was in high school, I had a very passionate law teacher, and he had a brother who was a Halton officer. And when I was in high school, I spoke to him, and just his passion for his job, it solidified like, okay, you know what, might be something that I'm interested in. And then I went on to education. I studied criminology, and that was really good for myself because I understood why people commit crimes. And I think as a police officer, you do need to understand that and be empathetic for those who you're dealing with. And then after university, I went to advanced police studies at Mohawk College.
Okay.
And that was a really good program. It was like a post-undergrad program. And that really told me like what a police officer is. I don't have any family members who are police officers. I didn't really have any friends who also were interested in police officers. So that program, again, the instructors and professors there were retired police officers. We had some from Halton, some from OPP, Peel, some RCMP. So, that kind of was like, you're going to be incorporating a lot of paperwork. You're de-escalating a lot of situations. This is what your 12-hour shift is going to look like.
Okay. Did you ever have any obstacles going through your mind saying, should I do this? Like, do I want to go through something like this? And if you did, what did you do to kind of overcome those obstacles?
So for me, the first two things that pop in my head was the fitness. And then even my fragile personality.
Okay.
I feel like I'm a sensitive person. I care a lot about people, and I know policing is a very incredibly hard job. So yeah, those were kind of the two obstacles. When it came to the fitness aspect, prior to doing the prep, I thought I was very athletic. I did martial arts. I weight trained 5 days a week. I incorporated cardio before and after my workouts. And I was naive and maybe had a little chip on my shoulder thinking, oh yeah, prep, I can do that. Shuttle run, I can do that.
Right.
I did the prep for the very first time in 2019, and I got timed at 4 minutes and 3 seconds.
Okay.
So,
wow.
Yeah, that was a huge hurdle because I thought fitness would be the easiest thing for the police application. And I was there saying, oh, I can't even do the fitness. How am I going to do the other steps?
Right.
So, yes.
You pushed through.
100%. So when we talk about mindset with policing, I see you can have two mentalities. You can have a solution mindset or you can have a problem mindset. And the problem mindset is blaming outside factors of you not being successful. So for example, with fitness, it was, the prep isn't meant for females. Oh, the prep isn't meant for, smaller statute humans, right? But the solution mindset is, okay, what can I do to pass this? So I reached out. I asked my, fitness instructor if I can come in, as much as she can to use the equipment, and worked incredibly hard. And even with all of those extra practices, when I was doing the prep over and over again, I was getting better than 4 minutes, but I still wasn't passing the 2 minutes and 30 second pass mark.
Okay.
But no, I worked incredibly hard, and I was able to do it.
Okay, so two quick things.
Yes.
First of all, amazing. Okay, here's the thing. I think in life, a lot of times, again, this is about knowing what you're going to walk into, right? And, even though someone might be like, yeah, I want to do policing, to unearth all the physical demands, all the mental demands that it's going to require from you is a huge piece. So those that are listening, research what you're going to walk into. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I love your thought process around overcoming the obstacle of basically, how am I going to get through this? I mean, you could very easily said, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. You could have just ended it right there and said, this is not designed for women, and just end it right there. And then you may have gone through a life of regret, or you may have gone through you may have just dropped that opportunity, which I find a lot of times, maybe it's the human nature of individuals to give up too easily or just kind of just get defeated. So the winner mentality is literally where it's there. The other thing I want to bring exposure to is this. There is a huge need for women in policing, a huge need. And we've done a lot of things, a lot of pieces about women in policing, because we want women to look at it and be like, you do not have to fit this stereotype threshold of what is required. What your story is right now could be for anybody. So that's amazing. Okay, so I'm very happy that you're doing what you're doing right now. So 3 months in right now, what's the experience been like?
It's been great. Honestly, I am so thankful for the people that I work with, my coach, sergeant, staff sergeant, my platoon mates. Like, being a rookie, you get there can be anxiety of not performing well, right? Like, up to this point, you've been a student, you've been learning, and now you're actually on the road. You have your use of force, you have your vest, you are a police officer. So with that being said, there's also just so much information being fed to you as well. But with the support of, my coworkers, who I can definitely see being, my family, I'm super grateful. And it's been amazing. It's everything that I thought of and more.
Okay, that's incredible. One of the things that we also touch upon here is, and we're going to find out very quickly. So let me ask you first question, Sim. where does your end goal with policing? Is there a specialty division that you want to, once you make it into, and I'm speaking faith right now in your life. Yeah. Once you get into constable status, is there a level that you want to get to? I want to end in a certain division.
Oh, absolutely. I think one of the things that attracted me to policing was that there's just so much you could do.
Okay.
I was actually talking to a sergeant earlier today, and she was telling me all the different units she was in.
Right.
And that's probably the thing that attracts me. There's so much variety. Personally, me, I'm really interested in the canine unit.
Okay.
I've always really liked dogs my entire life, and I feel like if I could do that as a career, and use that to help investigations and assist other police officers, that'd be great. So the canine unit has always been something I really wanted to do.
Okay, that's a great hit. What about yourself? What is your where would you like to see yourself as, in the next 5-10 years? I mean, once you get into past first class constable, you can start applying, right, to specialty divisions. Where's something that you'd like to see yourself at?
Honestly, the road.
Okay.
Again, I know I'm brand new, but I just feel like you learn so much on the road. Like, you're dealing with everything. You're not just specialized on one thing.
Yes.
And I think there's just still so much to learn. But I have always been interested in cybercrime. My dad works for Microsoft, so growing up, I was a little tech savvy in softwaring and programming. But, being a rookie and being new to the road, it's like, I can see myself doing, this for 30 years.
Okay, no, listen, that's great. Yeah. That's great. I think it's important for people listening now that are maybe in already the police and they're already hired right now. See, you guys hit a goal that many people are dying to hit, okay? And one could say, I made it. I admit, that's it, I'm done. But the fact that you guys are pushing for more, I think is we all need that. We all need to always level ourselves up and grow and grow and grow to see what life has to give us. So let's just kind of open this a little bit right now. And that is basically the mindset, right? What do you think for those people listening right now that either A, want to get into policing, or are in policing and want to grow? Where do you think, and we'll just make it as an open discussion now, where do you think their minds should be to continuously make sure, just like we always maintain our vehicles, to maintain the brain, the mind, to get us to make sure we're on that track? What do you think that, what are some, you can pull from experiences individually, some tactics that you use?
From my experience, I feel like discipline and dedication is the number one thing. So I've always knew I wanted to do policing, and I'm still in my early 20s. So one thing from the start I knew when I was applying to the cadet program, it was I'm missing that life experience. So what I did was I decided to take another route. I decided to volunteer a lot. And I knew, especially as someone in university, on a Friday night, maybe you can go to a party, or you can maybe volunteer and get that experience and make real connections with the community, which is something I did. And that made me really competitive at in the cadet program. And when you actually take that time and dedication, you can really accomplish anything. I mean, whether that's like what Bianca said, you take the time and dedication to work on your fitness. For me, take more time volunteering. If you really put the effort in the right place, you can get the right outcome. Okay.
How about yourself?
I think for me is positive self-talk, be kind to yourself, and don't give up. Policing is very, very competitive, and I didn't get into Halton my first time. And that was a huge, it was a huge letdown, right? This is something that I wanted so much. It was the service that I knew that I wanted so much. And I had so many people saying, yeah, Bianca, your resume is great. Your resume is great. And I applied. And I know that happens to a lot of people. They don't get in the first time. They don't get in the second, third, fourth, fifth time. So be kind to yourself. Don't give up. If this is something that you really, really want, work hard towards it, and always try to change and better yourself.
Okay, I like that. Let's go to you, Chantal, and talk about how maybe police has the resources that police offer have changed. Like, now, back in my day, again, when I applied, it was very simple. You have to do a test. If you pass it, great, you move on. If you fail, it's the end of the road until you have to apply again next year. Okay, and I went through those as well, through those little levels of like rejection and all. I chose a different path very early on. I ended up jumping with the city, and I had a very different experience until it brought me to this. But with that being said, I find now, talking to so many agencies, the amount of resources and time that is being put to help, bring that person in is on a different level. And I kind of was, oh man, I wish that was there when I was there. I mean, you can go on LinkedIn right now and potentially be recruited, right? How have you found the changes happen between, having a career of 24 years, between then and now? How do you feel? Would you call it more resources now than what was offered before? And kind of maybe what are some things that Halton is doing right now to help kind of bring more awareness to, people looking to get into policing?
Well, I think now that hopefully we're over the pandemic hump,
yes,
we're getting a lot more opportunity to be back out in the community, right? To get back to the colleges, universities, because they're back into in-person classes, right? So it's getting our face out there and just talking to them and sharing what Halton is about, but giving them the information so they're comfortable with applying, right? Because sometimes it's that unknown, right? Policing can be a scary thing for a lot of people. But with the age of internet and social media, right, there's a lot of opportunity to share, how it works and what policing is all about, right? It's not like the shows, it's not like the movies, but we're very welcoming, and we do everything that we can in order to ensure the best success for applicants. So, we have a lot of people that just call, right? That cold call too, and have conversations with our recruiting officers. And by the time they're finished, they can't wait. They can't wait to get their application in, right? Our recruiting officers will really do their best to pull out the positive and pull out the best of everybody. And we'll walk you through the process as well, right? I mean, it's outlined on the website, just like every service would have it and everything, right? But there's the opportunity to talk face to face with somebody, and I think that is really the importance and making those connections, right? Building those relationships and making those partnerships, and then they can see themselves with that service, right? And that's our job, is to get out there, speak to interested applicants, and let them see, go, hey, you know what? I can see myself working here. I can see myself wearing that uniform.
Okay. No, that's good.
And that leads to that mindset, that you mentioned, is getting them to believe, okay, you know what? I can do this.
Right. Okay. So, this is good. This is really good, which is, it's going to lead me to something. Now, before I got here this morning, as I was walking my dog, I was listening to a podcast by Simon Sinek, and it was called, this one specifically, Unreasonable Hospitality. Okay. And, basically, the whole purpose of the podcast was talking about in service, and it applies to every. Even though this was catered to the restaurant industry, but it was catered across the board for all industries. What is the difference between service and hospitality? And they referenced it could be service is black and white, and hospitality has color. Okay, and what I draw from that when I was listening to it is, like, even in our world of security, and even now in the world of policing, how do you find personality plays in navigating a end-win solution? Meaning, as in, you're going to pull somebody over maybe for speeding, or you're going to encounter someone in the community that may be doing something wrong, or you may be seeing someone doing right. At the end of the day, your first encounter with them, from your experiences, even though they're just starting off, and I'd like to draw on yours as well, how important is the way you navigate through personality and communication to get a winnable solution or a winnable end goal?
So I think personally what I've experienced in 3 months, I think it's important to show people that, yes, even though we're in uniform, we're also people, and we're also humans, and we also have personalities. And when you're dealing with someone who, has gone through something traumatic or has done something, and we call it, zone black or zone red, where they're very highly escalated and you're trying to bring them down, you need to show your personality, be empathetic, have active listening, communication. So I know personally, again, just like being yourself is, yeah.
No, that's good. That's good. How about yourself, son?
Yeah, I agree. I think communication is probably the most important tool police officers have nowadays. I think everyone pretty much believes that policing is just going hands-on and handcuffing people and arresting people. But in reality, most of it is just talking to people. If you could be personable and have a great attitude with someone going through a hard time, maybe in a mental health crisis, you could totally change that situation and make it do a 180. I think that's why one of the reasons one of our most important competencies is communication. Based on how you talk to someone, you could pretty much predict how a situation will go. So if you do have a good personality, if you can talk to people, you can be empathetic, and you can have a real connection with the individual, that could really change their perception on policing and how a call might go.
That's great. That's great. How about yourself, Chantal? Anything you want to bring up from years of experience?
Well, I think you really have to lean on your experience and the training that you get, and it just falls into place. And reading people. I mean, everybody's different, and you can even pull on your own, right? Policing was one thing, when I first started, but then after you have a family, it changes, right? And then you'll see different things in different people as well, right? So you can relate more. So it's about bringing your personality, right, to the situation, and, amending it and changing it as you see fit. And, I agree with what Sim said, that communication is our best tool. It's our best use of force tool, and it has to be the strongest, right? And you can build that tool through utilizing, our own experiences, whether it's in different units or it's in numerous years of policing, or bringing it from wherever you came from as well, right? And experience through family and social. And it's having the opportunity to really put that all together when you're trying to help in a situation, right? Because you're bringing that personal touch. I honestly think we do that very well in Halton. Our community is very supportive of us, and we're very lucky, for the for our communities that make up the region of Halton, and it makes us very proud to serve, right? Because we do have that respect.
No, that's good. And to your point, everything that you've done in your career, for example, you've evolved into higher level versions of yourself over the years, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're being with the service for this long right now, and having all these years of experience, for people coming in, what would be some advice that you might give to nurture their career or their path to if you'd like to see yourself get here, some things I can recommend through maybe my experiences over these years that can really help you? Like, what would you suggest? Like an open mind, or maybe learning and putting more, like what would be your advice for someone?
I think definitely pay attention to your level of resiliency. Policing is a tough job. I think it's a lot tougher out there than it was when I first started. Mm-hmm. And policing changes, but it always kind of stays the same, right? But that you really need to build that level of resiliency. It's a lot different than it was back in the day because of social media, because of public perception, because of public scrutiny for things that may not have anything to do with Halton, but because of and who we are and what we do. But you really need to protect that. And, just like Bianca said, right, self-care, take care of yourself, and stay healthy, but be prepared, right? There's going to be some hard days, but have things in place, so that you can take care of it.
Okay, that's good. So getting into policing, obviously we know that there's a physical involved, and we know there's an application process involved, but then there's that potentially dreaded interview where is it going to happen? I want to maybe see if you guys can pull from your experiences, and how should somebody prepare for an interview?
Well, in my experience, at least, I feel like you should really know what you're getting yourself into. So for my interview, I remember a lot of the questions they asked was, what do you know about Halton? So when you go in there, you should know about what Halton is and what Halton stands for. For example, I knew that for me, what was really important about applying to Halton Region was that they have a really good community-based policing. I knew that was something that was really important to Halton Region and important to me. So I did some research, and I pretty much saw how much of an impact it has on Halton Region. Another thing I would say is be very punctual. I think as police officers, you need to be professional, and you should show up on time. You should be dressed well. You should have a real personalization and connect with your recruiter and just engage in that conversation and be prepared.
Okay, I'm going to add one to yours.
Yeah.
So I love the fact you said research it.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I applied for Peel, I went so as far to learn, because I'm from Toronto, to learn the entire geography. What are all the regions or the boroughs? What are the areas? What is the name of the chief of police? Now, I can tell you, it's so ingrained in my head, I can say Chief Police Noel Cantney, because that is at the time when I wanted to find out everything, and I wanted to blow away the interviewers to say how much I know about your thing. So to your point, I 100% agree with you. Know what you're walking into and know it well.
Absolutely.
What about yourself? What are some things that you would find are things to kind of master? Or planning?
So I definitely agree. Research your service.
Okay.
Halton and many other services provide their competencies online. So, when you're doing your behavior interview, have 2 to 3 examples of each competency. There's nothing wrong with being over-prepared, but also just be confident as well. I mean, these recruiters have been interviewing, I can't even tell you how many people, but they know who they're interviewing and they know who is, sitting across from the table. So you need to be confident. You applied for a reason. So believe in yourself and just know your stuff.
Okay. No, that's good. So right now, because this is part of everything that you do, how important is it for someone to articulate their life examples tied to policing?
Well, it's very important, or else you don't pass the
interview.
Okay.
But if you don't have, and let's open up the answer. If someone wants to be able to demonstrate that, what would be your recommendation? Like, someone says, how do I get more experience? How am I going to be able to articulate right now to you what I can do to get on? What would you suggest?
Well, what we do prior to, if they're successful to reach the ECI interview, we provide them with like a mentoring session. So they have a one-on-one with a recruiting officer that gives them the opportunity to go over maybe some of their ideas, some of the things that they've experienced, right? Perhaps examples that they're pulling from and bringing to the table. So they'll have that opportunity to go over them with a fine-tooth comb, right? With a recruiting officer, and then to get some advice, right? To say, okay, well, and then what happened, right? And then what happened, to kind of open up their mind to it, right? So it gives them a little bit of homework to go home, work on, and then when they come back in, we do our best to make them succeed, right? We're obviously not going to lead them or anything like that, but I mean, we do our best to try to bring out that positive in them. They're in there, right? I mean, they haven't reached the ECI stage because they haven't done anything, right? We see something really good in them. So it's just a matter of them putting it on the table. And it doesn't have to be, like you mentioned, it doesn't have to be from security at a hospital or loss prevention at Canadian Tire, right? You can pull some really good competencies, from working hospitality, right? Any opportunity you have to work with people,
that's
right?
Good.
It's human nature. Right. So you can, if you learn to read people and learn to communicate calmly, right? And to think on your toes, to think while you're talking, things like that. Right. And if you can bring that to the table and articulate to us that you can do that, well, those make very strong police candidates.
That's good. That's good. Sim, what were some jobs that you did that helped you get into policing?
So I actually did work a couple of jobs before I got into the cadet program. I worked security, I've worked in hospitality, the food industry, and I worked customer service. And I actually articulated every single one of those jobs when I was in my interview. So from security, when I was giving examples of how that job relates to policing, I didn't know where to end. I've done report writing, I've done dealing with people with mental health, I've done communications.
Hold on, for those of you listening in the security industry, report writing is important. Okay, go ahead.
And one thing, if you're a cadet, you'll be writing a lot of reports. So yeah, that's definitely a useful skill. Even customer service. I work customer service at Walmart Canada. So when dealing with people's money, stakes can be high, emotions can be high, and you have to deal with conflict and you have to deal with conflict resolution. And even food hospitality, like you deal with customers all the time, you deal with complaints, and you learn how to talk to people and communicate with people. And when there is a problem, it is up to you, if you're the only employee there, which I was most of the time, how to deal with those problems.
Okay, nice. How about yourself, Bianca? What were some experiences that you had coming in?
So for employment, so I was born and raised in Milton, and I worked with the town of Milton for 8 years. Kind of started off as a camp counselor, during high school, and then I actually worked my way up to a camp coordinator. And these camps included working with children with exceptionalities, focusing on physical health, things like that. I was very comfortable with my job, and I felt like it did give me a lot of the soft skills. So the active listening, the, being compassionate, critical thinking, problem solving, etc. When I applied to Halton my first time, I had a recruiter go through my portfolio when I wasn't successful. And she was saying, listen, Bianca, it's great that you've been with one company for 8 years. It shows commitment, and especially the stuff that you're dealing with, children, parents. customer service, things like that. But I worry when you do your essential competencies interview, you're not going to have much life experience to pull from. So she recommended that I do loss prevention at some sort of superstore. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, we had that discussion, got my security license. I applied to Walmart Canada for loss prevention, and I got hired on. And the location that I worked at was downtown Hamilton on Barton Street. Okay. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with Barton Street, it is all different types of colors.
Okay.
In terms of mental health, homelessness, yes, addiction. And, being born and raised in Milton, I can be very honest, it was predominantly white middle-class community. Mm-hmm. And then being downtown Hamilton, for someone like myself, it gave me a whole lot of culture shock per se. Again, in terms of mental health. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I worked that for a year, and I wasn't just dealing with retail theft. It was, like I mentioned, mental health, mm-hmm, addiction, homelessness. So that definitely helped me when it came to the essential competencies and, pulling those experiences from working loss prevention.
Okay. This is good. Now we're gonna do like a scenario question right now. Okay, so I'm a person that has applied many times, or maybe 2 or 3 times, or I've applied and I've been rejected. What are you going to tell the person out there listening who's applied, who's been rejected? Okay, and he doesn't know what to do right now. What is the message that we're going to give that person? Let's hear it from you first.
So the first thing I want to say is you're worth enough. Don't give up. But to look at your education, your volunteering, your work experience, and see if there's something that you can do to change that. Okay. When you're not successful in one service, you don't want to immediately apply to another service and think, oh, this service just doesn't like me. It might be something that you need to change, like on your actual resume.
And by the way, for those listening, all services talk to each other. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to give a pretty similar answer. Like, you have to really look back and see, hey, maybe something is going wrong. Maybe I might not have enough education. Maybe my work experience isn't as relevant as I want it to be. Maybe I don't have enough volunteer experience. So you have to really look back and see if there is something you have to improve on. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I would also say, don't lose motivation. Like, if you got rejected, that's okay. We've actually had a cadet who applied 3 times in our cadet class right now. And she knew that every time she had to keep working to improve herself. And eventually she got to the cadet position, and it was all worth it at the end.
That's it, Matt. Do not give up. Yeah. Those listening, please don't give up. Keep pushing. How about yourself? What would you say?
Yeah, don't give up.
Nice.
Because we welcome.
Yes.
Right? We welcome you back the next year, and hoping that, we see you stronger and more mature, and bringing, some new experiences to the table. I mean, life is about learning, right? So a year is a long time, right, for you to really gather that up. But what we're looking for is that you wanted to.
Okay.
Right? And you put that focus to it. And, you were motivated. You focused on something, you went out and you got it. Set some goals.
Okay.
And work with your friends too. I mean, fitness is a huge it's a big hurdle for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
But get out there and do it, and just try really hard, because you will succeed in the end, right? But you just got to keep putting that effort in.
Okay. Well, look, I want to really thank you guys. First of all, I want to thank you for 2 reasons. One, for coming down, but the other one is thank you for what you guys are doing every day. And I think for anybody listening, what police do for our communities, for our cities, for our towns, is that you're putting yourself on the line to protect, to change, to inspire. And I thank you for that, because a lot of times we're in jobs, even in the security industry, they're thankless jobs. And, I sometimes have to tell our people, because nobody really cares, nobody really thanks us. It's not really about that. It's who else is noticing it, and we're noticing it. So I want to thank you for everything that you guys are doing. And the amazing thing is that I look at you two, and you're just starting a career right now. Like, you are going into, retirement's at 2055, 2060. Don't even think of that futuristic element. But I appreciate it. My words for you both are, keep doing what you're doing. Like, the joy that you have. Now you have a video archive now of yourselves in your younger years. But look back at that, because that fire can't be quenched. Like, here's an example, 24 years later, and still kicking and loving what you do. And again, your Chief Stephen Tanner, is also an example of that. He's been able to cast his leadership and vision to the organization, and I just think it's amazing. Before we close, any last words at all for anybody listening? And it could be anything. It could be even your favorite color, but anything at all that you'd like to say?
Well, I am going to pitch the Halton Regional Police.
Oh, you have to.
We are a wonderful service.
Okay.
And we've got some great role models, and it's really nice to be happy to come to work.
Yes.
The camaraderie there is awesome, and I'm just saying, if you're looking for a policing opportunity in the GTA, then Halton should definitely be one of your chosen services. So we're always, accepting applications for experienced as well. We're going through the cadet process again. And we look forward to meeting all the new constables, right, that are going to come in the door. I mean, we look forward to that every day to see the new applicants. So please don't hesitate. We're always open for business. And hopefully, you never know, right? You could be wearing the blue one day.
That's right. And we'll make sure we'll put actually some links as well directly to Halton directly. Anything else that you guys like to say before we close?
Yeah, just for everyone who is trying to get hired out there, I think that our Chief Tanner actually told us during the end of our training is you're hired because of the person who you are. So make sure that you are yourself and you're bringing the right experiences and the right mindset to this career. And if you're going to apply, be consistent, have discipline, and have dedication. Okay,
love it. Bianca?
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say be yourself throughout the process and be yourself throughout the job as well. Don't try to fit into a mold of what you think policing is in your mind. I think that was a bit of a worrisome for me too. As I was mentioning earlier on this podcast, I'm a little sensitive. I care a lot about people, and I always had this mindset that police was tough and very shield-minded. But I got in, I'm here, and I feel very grateful for you inviting us on the podcast as well. I think for being new, this is great for your listeners who are interested in applying, and just be yourself.
Amazing. I love it. Guys, I want to thank you for your time. A big shout out to Halton. An incredible, credible agency. I just think that people are listening today, especially those that live in that community. And by the way, just one last question. For those that live outside of Halton, and they say, I'd like to work for Halton, is there an element that you're looking for someone to be more familiar with the region? Or would you have an element to say, come in and apply from all areas?
Well, we definitely accept applications from everywhere.
Okay.
I mean, it's very good that you know something about Halton,
right?
Course, or what your attraction is to the region or to the Halton Police.
Yes.
For sure. But look forward to anything like that, right? To bring people together, bring some newness, right, to the service. And we're very central, which works out really well for us too, right? So we have a lot of different regions that kind of feed into Halton. So we do have that opportunity, and we have a lot of members of our service, that may not have grown up and lived in Halton, right? But have found home in and around 100%. There, right? Because it was just a good place to live and work.
Okay, I love it. Look, guys, thank you so much for coming down. I'm inspired by hearing today what you have said from your experiences. And I think, again, for those listening, it will elevate their game, because that's all we're trying to do. We're all growing. We're all learning every single day and becoming better versions of ourselves. Thank you for your time, and have a fantastic day, everybody.
Thank you so much.
All right, awesome. Take care.
This podcast is brought to you by Executive Protection Lifestyle Canada. Make sure to drop by next week, and don't forget to subscribe.